Hi, this is Jenna.
And this is Heather.
And this is Conspiracies Unlocked. And today we're going to be talking about the book 1984 by George Orwell, Chapter 2, Part 7. But first we are going to recap what happened in Part 6. Take it away, Heather.
So in Part 6, you might recall that Winston spoke with O'Brien, and O'Brien was praising Winston on how eloquently he wrote his writings for the Times. He had written an article about newspeak, and Winston was very humble, saying that he was only an amateur. O'Brien also kind of referenced
Sime.
I was gonna say Smee, like in Peter Pan.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but O'Brien kind of referenced Sime, who had been vaporized, saying that he, O'Brien, had recently talked to a friend of yours who was an expert on newspeak, referencing Sime, but he said that the name had slipped his mind. O'Brien also gave Winston his address to his home, which was very curious because there's not a directory and no one...
You're not supposed to be able to do that.
You're not supposed to be able to. So he let him know that he would like Winston to come by and pick up the 10th edition of the Newspeak Dictionary, which was not yet available, but he had a copy. Winston agreed, but he was left feeling very uneasy about the whole situation. We ended the part 6 with the quote of Winston, where it stated, he had the sensation of stepping into the dampness of a grave. And it was not much better because he had always known the grave was there and waiting for him. So again, Winston is thinking about his death.
Yeah, ominous. Very ominous.
And that's where we left off.
And now we're going to pick up at Chapter 2, Part 7. And we learn that Winston woke up crying, and Winston was about to tell Julia all about his dream, but instead he just kind of paused and thought to himself that it's just way too complex of a dream to even try to explain, which I can understand that. Like, I've had dreams that I try to explain and I can't do it because it's like there's just so much. And then also I feel like when I'm explaining a dream, it just like disappears.
Yeah, as soon as you start the recollection of your dream, you just forget it all.
Yeah, it's so weird and it's not fair. Like, at all. It's like right there. It's like on the tip of your tongue, but it's on the tip of your brain, and you just can't even put it into words.
And then also, that, like, I always wish that there was a machine, and probably other people have thought this too, where when you're sleeping, you could be hooked up to it, and it would, like, record your dream like a movie, and you can watch it back. I'm waiting for the day. That would be, like,
really scary, because... you probably have, I think that you have like 1,000 dreams a night, or, you have a lot, because I've fallen asleep before, just during like snooze button, so like 5 minutes, and had a full on like...
movie
dream that would have taken place in like a 3-hour span that happened in 5 minutes. That's how fast our brain like goes.
Yeah, I think it's just
seconds. I think that it's always, that you're always, if you dream, you're always dreaming. But you only remember the last dream that you had.
Yeah, probably.
Unless it's just on repeat, your dream over and over and over.
I have had dreams like that.
Or the last little bit of your dream, maybe.
I've had some really weird dreams. I've had a dream before where, can you read in your dreams?
You're not supposed to be able to, but I think that you can read, like, enter, do not enter. I think that you can read, like sight word type things, like one thing. But you can't, like, pick up a book and just, like, read it because your mind doesn't work that fast.
Mm-hmm. So I had a dream once. I remember I was 17, and I had a dream that someone gave me a letter, and I tried to read it in my dream, and I could not read it. So I put it in my pocket in my dream and said, when I wake up, I'll read it. But then, of course, when I woke up, and the first thing my brain did was, like, go to my hand to my hip. Like, I remembered, and I was like, oh, yeah. In that second, I remembered you can't take things from your dream to reality.
No, that doesn't work. That's funny.
So that was weird.
Anyways, so he had said that he used a metaphor and said it had all occurred inside the glass paperweight, but the surface of the glass was the dome. of the sky, and inside the dome, everything was flooded with clear, soft light in which one could see into interminable distances.
That's pretty deep.
Yeah.
He always goes back to the paperweight so many times. Remember?
It's like a symbol of, like, himself or something. He sees himself in it. He always goes back to it. It's really weird, and yeah.
Remember I forget which part it was before, but he had referenced the paperweight again, also as a metaphor, saying that, like, the flower in the center was like Julia and his love, and now it's evolving into this world,
dream
I guess.
world, yeah. And so then, so he's thinking about his metaphor, I guess, and then he says to Julia, until this moment, I believed I'd murdered my mother. Because remember Which,
you know what I thought about right now?
What?
He also was going to use that paperweight to murder Julia.
Oh.
And then he had that
No,
dream.
he wasn't. Was he? I thought it was a cobblestone.
Oh, I guess it was a cobblestone.
Yeah, it was a cobblestone.
Oh,
because he had to leave the paperweight at the place.
Yeah.
But it was all in the same.
I was just thinking so much of this.
Yeah, you're like trying to be like, George Orwell is doing something in here, like trying to like connect the pieces,
Sorry.
Remember his last dream that he was, a few chapters ago, we talked about his last dream, and that's when we found out what happened to his family. And he had a dream that his mother, his father, and his baby sister were in a sinking ship.
Oh, yeah.
And they were looking up to him to be like, it's okay, we have to die so you can continue moving forward. Well, this dream kind of changes all of that. Because we find out, I guess he finds out too, he has a self-realization, that his father actually disappeared quite some time before his mother and baby sister. And his mother and baby sister disappeared around the time that he was 10 or 12. He remembered better the rackety, uneasy circumstances of the time, the periodical panics about air raids and the sheltering in tube stations, the piles of rubble everywhere, the unintelligible proclamations posted at the street corners, the gangs of youths in shirts all the same color, the enormous queues outside the bakeries, the intermittent machine gun fire in the distance, above all, the fact that there was never enough to eat. So could you imagine being 10 or 12 years old, your dad disappearing, and then you're just like there with your mom and baby sister who is like maybe 1, 2, and like living like that, like in a war zone. Like I know that people are living like that too nowadays. You hear about it in other countries. We're so fortunate to be in a country here where we have enough to eat, where we have all this like fortune, pretty much. We have good fortune, Yeah,
it is really sad because, like
in
you
third
said,
world
like
countries,
it is happening, especially like right now. We have the Russian-Ukraine war going on, and that's a big thing. There's a lot of kids that are being displaced and families that are being displaced because of that war right now. And I mean, it kind of is depicting what is saying in this little chapter here that you read, that paragraph. That's
about
exactly what is happening there right now in our
crazy.
Current times. So it's really sad and really scary. You know
what's crazy? My grandma lived through that.
Oh, wow.
Because she lived, I'm not sure exactly where she lived, but it was when somebody was bombing London, and because they're from England, Scotland, over that way, when my grandma was a little girl, they would turn off all their lights. They would get like a siren to turn off all their lights.
Oh, yeah.
So when the planes went over,
have to hide.
They wouldn't bomb them because the planes were trying to get to like the big city. Mm-hmm. And she didn't live in like the big city. She lived like in the country or whatever. And so they would get like sirens or whatever. They'd have to turn off all their lights and then just hope that they didn't get bombed.
Just kind of hunker down and wait for them to pass.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's really scary.
And I would imagine that would probably have been World War II.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it would have to be World War II. So
that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, that just, like, my grandma had to deal with that. That's so crazy. And that's crazy that some countries will always be dealing with that, I think.
Yeah, sadly, there's always going to be some kind of war going on somewhere in the world. I don't think war is ever going to end.
Yeah, they're supposed to be, like, world peace, but, like, it's never...
I mean, of course we want that, but I just don't see it happening with just
too
the
many
way
people.
Humans are.
Yeah, they're selfish, they're greedy, and they all want power, control, and everything. And there's just no way that anyone is gonna let that up.
No.
Yeah.
And then another thing that I was reading on here, too, that I thought I was going to ask you, what is an oil cake? Because it said that sometimes that they would split a few fragments of oil cake, like as food, like the food. So I'm like, is that like oil you put in your car, or like vegetable oil cake or something? Like, you know, like some kind of cake made with...
Yeah.
It just sounds like really gross.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what that is, but I would imagine almost like, I saw a documentary on a third world country, and they would eat, like, mud pies just to fill their stomachs, even though it was just dirt.
Oh, but there
I doubt it's oil, but it could very well be, like, vegetable oil or something like that.
Probably some kind of,
yeah.
So weird. But, yeah, I saw that, and I highlighted it because I was like, fragments of oil cake. Like, that's pretty desperate if that's all you have is, like, what, maybe you have oil and flour and maybe an egg and you bake it? I don't know what the recipe would be, but it's, like, probably really few ingredients.
No, because they would be, like, digging through trash just trying to get scraps of stale bread crust. And just anything that they could find, you know? Like, I just think of, like, Aladdin, the movie Aladdin, when the little... kids are like digging through the trash, and then Aladdin and Abu give them the little piece of bread.
Do you remember in Hunger Games when he throws the burnt bread at Katniss?
No.
Before she's like in the games with
I don't
him?
really remember.
Yeah, it was like because he was like the baker, and then she was like, I don't know, she like people would like wait out for like scraps, I guess, you know, because they didn't have a lot of food. And I remember he burnt the bread, and he was gonna like throw it outside because it was burnt. He couldn't sell it or use it. And then it was like raining, and she like got the bread and
then to go give to her little sister. And
and then they ended up like in the Hunger Games like fighting together and everything.
Oh my gosh!
But,
yeah.
So that's what I thought of too.
Anyways, the mom was just super sad, depressed, hopeless. She would just like just mull away. Cooking, cleaning, doing what she had to do, but like
just getting through it,
just
like
getting through it, doing the emotions. Yes, autopilot. And then she would sleep a lot and just depressed, and she just spiritless is what it says, completely spiritless.
And she would like focus like most of her time also taking care of her daughter because the daughter was like 2 or 3 years old, and because the daughter was so sick.
Yeah.
And like sickly and almost dying.
But we don't know from what, and it could just be straight up starvation. Who knows?
I was thinking starvation, but I don't know. But then it was really sad. I highlighted this part where it describes her relationship with Winston. And it says that very occasionally she would take Winston in her arms and press him against her for a long time without saying anything. So she would like embrace him and give him a hug, but it was like occasionally, but the little girl was like always in her arms.
And then, but I, like, you know, when you're having a bad day or you hear about school shootings, stuff like that, and you go and take your kids and you just like hold on to them.
Yeah.
And just like, I feel like I felt like that's what she was doing, just being like, I love you, and this sucks, and, you know.
It just seems like she didn't really have a lot left for him, like, emotionally, because, you know, she lost her husband, and then she has to take care of these kids in a time where, obviously, there's no way to really take care of them properly,
yeah.
And it's not her fault. That's just the circumstances of the times.
It is, yeah.
And then the daughter is sickly dying for whatever reason, and then Winston's just kind of there.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Yeah.
So she's just puts all of her energy into the little girl.
So he, above all of everything, he remembers the continuous hunger and the fierce sordid battles at meal times. And he even threw temper tantrums to be like, I'm a boy, I need more food. And I'm like, what a fucking douchebox.
Yeah, I mean, it was really, like, eye-opening. I wrote on here, oh my god, get a grip, Winston, because of the way that he behaved.
Yeah, he was just being fucking rude and just, like, I don't know, selfish as fuck. And he's done weird he's been a douchebag before where I'm like, I thought you were the good guy, remember? Like, and that was in the beginning of the book. So he does have these, like, weird douchebag moments. But he, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, like, I was just, like, thinking, you know, the thing is he was, like, what, 10 or 12 years old, between 10 and 12 years old. He's old enough, and I feel like kids probably in this time, like, they probably grew up even faster because of, like, the way that the world was. Like, they were great. Like, he's probably 10 or 12, but he's, like, 15, 16 mentally.
Yeah.
He should know why there's not much food.
Yeah, I think so,
like,
too.
why is he harassing his mother?
Who's obviously sad, helpless, hopeless, like, just sad.
Like, he's nagging her over and over again and whining and demanding.
Yeah, and it's like, even Max, my 6-year-old, like, he's like, I don't understand, why did they get 2 cars and I only get 1, or, you know, whatever. And he understands, I was like, because this or whatever, and he gets it. So why isn't this 10, 12-year-old giving his mom a break, you know?
I mean, I underlined that it said he would cry out with rage when she stopped ladling. He would try to wrench the saucepan and spoon out of her hands. He would grab bits from his sister's plate.
That is so fucked up.
This is his dying sister, and he's, like, taking food off of her plate.
Yeah.
Like,
it's crazy.
Okay, Winston, get a grip.
Yeah.
Like, you're not the only one starving here.
Yeah, that's crazy. And so, then one day they decided to start rationing chocolate. And they were able to get a 2-ounce slab of chocolate to go between all of them, which I think a regular chocolate bar that we get, like a Hershey bar, is like probably like 6 ounces or so.
Yeah.
2 ounces is not a lot, because at Valentine's Day you see the pound chocolates.
Yeah.
The 16 ounces, so that's 16 ounces.
Yeah.
And a normal one is about a quarter of that, or maybe an eighth of that. So 2 ounces is like pretty. It's like maybe like 3 squares of a Hershey bar, you know. And so he throws his fit again because there's 2 ounces split between 3 of them. Throwing fit. And Mom ends up giving him 3/4 of the chocolate bar.
But you know what? He knows he's going to get more because she always gives him more than his fair share.
Yeah, and
she always does.
She's even giving more than his fair share, more than her share. Because if anything, he should have gotten 2/3, and the sister should have gotten 1/3, and instead the sister gets 1/4. And what does this little frickin' brat do? Steals candy from a baby.
Literally rips it out of his sister's hand.
Runs away out the door.
Like, what a little shit. What are you doing, Winston?
Like, oh my gosh. So then he's like walking around the city for like a few hours. He gets hungry and decides to go home, and guess what? Mom and baby's sister are gone.
See you later.
But there's nothing else missing, just them.
Yeah.
And so they just like disappeared, vanished, vaporized. But even like now, he has no idea if they're actually dead, because the mom might have been taken to a forced labor camp. She could be there right now in the story. Yeah. And the sister may have gone to a reclamation center for hopeless. Well, she probably was hopeless, but homeless kids.
She was very hopeless. She was dying.
Yeah. So she might have gone to like pretty much like a homeless shelter for kids, like an orphanage.
Yeah.
Or to a labor camp with the mom, or just simply left somewhere to die. What the fuck? How bleak is that?
I think they probably took her to the orphanage and the mom to the labor camp. I don't think they would have taken her. They wouldn't have let mom take her, because the mom would be no use to them if she has this kid that's dying.
Yeah, that's true. But no, you're right. I was going to say, because the baby's still on the boob, like breast milk, but
it's a mom even producing any milk if she doesn't have enough nutrition?
She has no food. She's literally giving everything to her kids. Like,
yeah.
So he's trying to tell Julia. This is a douchebag part in Julia's move, though.
Oh, Julia's so funny.
Julia doesn't give a fuck.
She doesn't.
She just doesn't give a fuck. She's just such a fucking bitch.
I wrote that she's uninterested.
Uninterested in anything other than
sex.
Herself. Yeah, her own
pleasure.
needs. her own pleasurable needs. So he's trying to tell Julia about how his mom died. And she just said, I expect you were a beastly little swine in those days. And he's like, no, wait, that's not what I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you this. And then he looks over and she's back asleep.
Yeah, she's like, all children are swine.
Yeah, like, what the fuck?
I mean, he really was a beastly little swine.
Well, yeah, he was, but still, that's not the takeaway. That's her takeaway?
I know.
Like, but there's more to the story, and, you know, and, so Winston was looking back and was like, he was thinking about how just 2 generations ago, am I skipping anything?
No.
Okay. He was looking back about how 2 generations ago, they didn't alter the history. No one was vanished. They were governed by private loyalties, and individual relationships mattered. Mm-hmm. And now it's like so it's almost like how we're living now. And now you had to align with Big Brother. You had to be a part of a party to be anything. And then he thought about it and he's like, fuck, the Proles are still living like normal people. Like, they were able to have relationships.
They're the most free.
They're free. They don't have telescreens everywhere. They're able to, like, do things. And the Proles had stayed human. Mm-hmm. And Winston tells Julia that. And I almost feel like that's, like, now politicians versus, like, regular people. It's like the politicians live in their own little world, and that's essentially what the party is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and it's like they live in this own
not
world.
Reality.
Like, a politician could never come out here and, like, hang out with us without being pretty much vaporized through the media, social media. I mean, fuck, like, if a politician even gets a stripper, it's like, oh my god. You know what I mean?
Are you comparing us to strippers?
No, I'm just saying. No, the book. Oh. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, if they go to a bachelor party or something and there's a stripper, it's it'll be all over the news. And it'll be like, oh my god, don't ever vote for him, or don't ever do this, or...
Yeah.
Which, I'm sorry, but, like, girl or boy, like, I like my thunder from down under when I go to Vegas.
When it comes to politicians, I don't care about their private life.
No, I just want them to...
I really don't.
To help us,
yeah.
I'd rather them be a normal person like us.
Yeah.
And then they could, like, help us.
Exactly. As long as they're, like, doing positive things for... the people that they're representing.
But they all live in this little bubble, just like Winston, Julia, and the party does. Mm-hmm. It's exactly the same, except their politicians are much greater. They have, it's like half the country, I'm sure. Or, like, you know, a good majority of the country is the party, and the party can't even... There's no middle class there.
Yeah, I know.
There's poor or the party.
Yeah, that's
it. There's nothing in between.
All you got.
Yeah. And it's almost like that's how it kind of is going towards, I feel like.
I feel like the middle class is slowly declining in America.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a major separation in the
or rapidly, depending on how you're looking at that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's not going to be rapid. I don't want to go away in my life. I like the middle class. I think I am middle class.
I'm definitely in middle class.
I think I'm on the lower middle class, right? I don't know.
I think I'm definitely in middle class tax, but, like, I mean,
we're
striving
we're high class taxed and low class living. I swear to God, we are. Anyways, so Winston tells Jay. I have it as W and J on my notes, so I don't have to write out their whole names.
Jay, yeah. Oh, we can call her Jay, Julia.
Yeah, Julia. That they need to stop seeing each other. Because Julia could live for another 50 years, and it's almost like Winston is, like, becoming human again and feeling like, oh, hey, there is life past this, and you could go on and do things. And they were talking about how the party can't really control their feelings, but eventually they're going to inevitably rat on each other and confess everything, because the party will torture them until they tell on each other. And no matter what, even if they get caught and Winston doesn't rat on her, she'll get shot. If he does rat on her, she'll get shot. Yeah. No matter what, at the end of the day, Julia's gonna fucking be vaporized. But they said that they would never stop loving each other.
Yeah.
That they couldn't take away their feelings. And the telescreens never mastered reading people's thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But what I have here is, what about thought crimes?
I mean, yeah, they can. They can definitely detect you from your thoughts with the thought crimes, but I don't think the telescreens can do that. It's got to be something.
No, what I think is like the TV show Lie to Me. I think that by making subtle movements like eyes and twitches and weird things, that the telescreen is picking up on all those. And
cues,
then
non-verbal cues.
Yeah, and then they are being reported to the police or whatever, and then the police look into it, and then that's how they get them. You know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that they would use non-verbal cues, because can they literally read their mind?
No, they're saying that they haven't mastered that yet. Yeah. So, yeah.
But then it also goes on to say that if they could make me stop loving you, that would be the real betrayal.
Yeah.
And then she was like, well, they can't do that, you know. And then it went on to say, like, Winston went on to say, no, that's not quite true. They can't get inside you. If you can feel that staying human is worthwhile, even when it can't have any result whatsoever, you've beaten them. So they were just trying to, like, figure out how they can beat the party, even though they know they're going to rat each other out. It's like...
They know that they're fucked, but we can beat them somehow, maybe. And then what I wanted to say also was that when we were talking about just the difference between the party and the proles and how the proles still had human connections and everything, Winston said the proles are human beings. We are not human. Which is crazy because he's just like, dude, we don't even have that because of how...
Yeah, they can't...
How controlled they are. They're not allowed to have any emotions, where the proles can. They're still, like, living their free life. To an extent, I mean. But they can go into stores and they can do all these things that the party members can't do. So then they go on to talk about how everything that goes on in the Ministry of Love is kept a secret.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
It's really weird, and they are guessing that it's tortures, drugs, delicate instruments that registered your nervous reactions, gradual wearing down by sleeplessness and solitude, and persistent questioning.
Just to break you down.
So they could break them down and get whatever information you had.
And then at that point, it's like, would it even be factual or honest? Or you're just saying what you think they want to hear because you're done being tortured?
Yeah.
So how true is it, you know?
Yeah. And then the last part that I have here, it's the last part of the chapter. And it says, but if the object was not to stay alive, but to stay human, what difference did it ultimately make? They could not alter your feelings. For that matter, you could not alter them yourself, even if you wanted to. They could lay bare in the utmost detail everything you had done or said or thought, but the inner heart, whose workings were mysterious even to yourself, remained impregnable.
Wow.
So, like, deep. It's, like, you know, like that thing, like, you don't choose who you love, and you don't choose, like, it really is, like... That's what he's saying, is, like, you can't control your feelings. Like, and as much as you try, like, if you love somebody, and as much as you try to, like, be like, no, we can't be together, no, we can't do this, it's like, that feeling will always be there.
Yeah, I think even if they were to end their relationship, or if it was that they had to because they got caught, they would still love each other, but they would just, I guess, die loving each other. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, really. So it's not a matter of if they get caught. It's a matter of when.
Yeah.
How long do they really have?
Mm-hmm.
A couple weeks, days, months, years.
And you know, one thing that struck me is, maybe I'm just, like, kind of dumb and I don't remember this, but if they're trying to extract all of this information out of people before they're vaporized, why don't they go to the Ministry of Truth, where it's like the truth, right? Why do they go to the Ministry of Love?
I don't know.
It's weird.
Because I think the Ministry of Love deals with all the emotions in general. And they can't call it the Ministry of Hate.
I mean, because in the Ministry of Love, they use torture, drugs, delicate instruments.
I don't know. I was trying to think, where was the porn second happening or whatever, porn sec? Wasn't that in the Ministry of Love? Or was that in the Ministry of Records?
I think that was in the Ministry of Records because that's where
all the videotaping and stuff happens.
Which is the Ministry of Truth, right?
I don't fucking know.
We'd have to go back, but, like, why is it Ministry of Love? I don't know. That's just confused. That was just my little, like...
Yeah, why wouldn't
it be missing something? Why wouldn't it be Ministry of Truth? Truth is like the records department where they change and alter the truth, so... Yeah, I don't know.
I think it all just works together, maybe.
Maybe I'll try to figure it out and we'll put it in the recap.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's the end of that, and come back next Monday and we will go over chapter 2, part 8. And don't forget to
share, like, subscribe, and follow. And thank you for everyone who has been following us so rapidly on all of our social media platforms, especially on Facebook.
Yeah, we've had a big boom on Facebook, and I'm super happy. And
we got a pretty big little boost there. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you guys so much, and you will hear from us in 3 days.
In 3 days, Thursday.
Okay, bye.
See ya. Bye.